Kathy.
Sure it is.
So let's talk about your first special, 1968.
Yes.
Mitzi.
Uh-huh.
That evening, NBC had The Night Belongs to Mitzi. What was that all about?
Well, I had before. I think wasn't it Bob Hope that I didn't I? Yeah, I think
You
it was.
appeared on, I believe, Bob Hope and Laugh-In right before your show.
Yes, right. And it was one of those kind of interesting, marvelous nights. It was supposed to be. I think, did I do Bob? I think I did Bob when... no, that was the second special.
Okay.
Let me just throw in the second special. I came on in a little Hawaiian outfit, like Betty Grable, with big sculpture curls and a funny little Hawaiian skirt, and high-heeled wedgies with ankle straps. Click, 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 click. And Bob said, "I beg your pardon." I said, "Yes." He said, is it Hawaii or Hawaii? I said, "It's Hawaii." He said, "Thank you." I said, "You're welcome." Click, click, click. Well, he said, "Now, ladies and gentlemen, there goes Mitzi Gaynor. She's going to follow the show." That's Bob Hope's and my, kind of association. I mean, he was so generous, amazingly generous. The Laugh-In thing, I did a fashion show. I said, "Okay, I'll do it, but I got to change clothes every time." And of course, the kids were just nuts. I mean, Joanne Worley is such a sweetness. I mean, she's a good friend of mine and worthy. She's really, really. Just think of what a fabulous show that was. Gosh.
So right after Laugh-In, your show premiered, your first special, Mitzi. How did the show come about? How did the special come about?
Mr. Bean had worked with Ann Elder, a writer, and Larry Hovis, and they were partners, and they had done some stuff for my theater show, for my Vegas and Tahoe, Reno, all of those things. And they said, "Well, sure, we can do a show for Mitzi." And George got George Hamilton. I liked George Hamilton. I loved him. And we got Peter Gennaro to do the choreography. And it just, like Topsy, it just grew. And Bob Mackey did my clothes. And it was home. It was home for me. I just knew that's...
It felt right.
Just right. Just everything was right. That's the nicest thing about being married to Jack Bean. Mitzi's not comfortable, she's not going to do it. I'm not going to put her through anything. Anytime I had a choreographer that gave me any kind of flack, in other words, lots of choreographers, and you dancers who are out there, you know what I'm talking about, huh? She's going to do this step if it takes me all day. I don't have all day. I can't worry my whole show about one step, because it's not about you, it's about me. And that's how I got into Tony Sharmley, which is coming up later, I think.
Yes. What were the elements of your first special? What did you do?
Well, I came out. No, first of all, I think the cutest idea was they had 24 sheets of me looking terribly glamorous in a beautiful gold dress. And I do the kid. I think we've talked maybe about... No, we will talk about that, I suppose.
Yes.
And I come... And the audience hasn't seen the kid really, so they don't know what it is. And I look at her, and I kind of giggle, and I take a big black thing, and I draw funny eyes on it, and buck teeth, and then I go to the next one, finally, the last one, and I just giggle. And then there's a shot of me, and I turn around, and I've got the black things around here in my teeth and funny mustache on me in this beautiful dress. So the audience knows I'm not taking myself so seriously, which is very important. I'm going to make fun of me before you can make fun of me. And so I come out and I say something about, "I'm glad you're here." And so I'm going to say it's my special because I really want you to think this is very important. I don't want you to say, "Hey, you want to watch the Mitzi Gaynor show or what?" Which they do in New Jersey, where you're from, huh?
That's right.
Yeah. And then I just kind of talk to the audience, and I take out a small television set, and I say, "This is our lives now," and then I do sketches like, and we had Phil Harris as our announcer for this beat up car company way out in the valley or something with the dog, and it was Jack went to pick up Phil for this particular day. It was raining like a son of a gun, but the sun came out. And he was staying at the out in the valley in a hotel. And Sportsman's Lodge, as a matter of fact. I don't know if I can say these things. You probably have to edit them out or what, but you don't
You're
care.
fine.
Are you sure? And so it was very early in the morning, and Phil was known to tipple a bit. So he came out, and he was looking like the sun was rather bright, let's put it this way. So he gets in the car, and Jack said, "How are you, Phil?" He said, "Don't talk yet, kid." So my husband was a producer, right? So he said, "What can I do for you?" He said, "Nothing." He said, "Phil, would you like me to stop and get you a little medicine?" And he said, "No, kid, I got to work." "Thank you very much." And he did it in a half a day, everything he had to do in a half a day. Brilliant, huh? Yeah.
And Phil Harris had been the band leader on the Jack Benny Show and was married to Alice Faye, correct?
Yeah. I'm sorry, yes.
You sang a ballad on that show. Talk about that a little bit.
Blue, blue, blue. Oh my God. I have never had, and I've been married I was married for 52 years. I never had myself as good as I had myself I sang this song. I was so dramatic. I think it was so awful and embarrassing and terrible. So bad that Marlene Dietrich, who was a very good friend of mine, called me. She said, "Darling, I loved it. I have that you have the show. You must realize how marvelous it is. But darling, you know about the ballad? I think you're much more charming when you're amusing. In other words, don't you ever sing a song like that again." And I never did. From
Really?
then on, all the ballads I did were kind of like nice songs, not blue, blue, l'amour. I mean, really. Oh, God. And I talked to Tritipo, who was the designer for the show, interior design. And I said, "Did you see La Belle and la Bête?" And he said, "But of course, the French film." And I said, "Jean Cocteau." And he said, "Of course." And I said, "I want those." Oh, my, it was, how they put up with me, I don't know. And nobody laughed, which if only somebody had laughed and said, "Mary, get over yourself," it would have helped. But I don't know.
So from then on, you never sang ballads on your special?
No, I always sang ballads, but I didn't take myself so seriously.
Right, so you modified how you did
I know.
it. Okay.
Yeah,
you learned.
I think I learned not to make a fool of myself. I mean, I was so dramatic. When you see it, have you ever seen it?
I have not seen
Okay,
that
so if you
ballad.
see it, you might say, "Well, it's not as bad as she says it is." Oh, yes, it's bad.
You
But my
mentioned
voice
that-
was very
yeah.
good.
Always. You mentioned your character, the kid. Talk about the kid.
I was lonely when I was little because, as I think I said to you earlier, we always lived in an apartment in not the best part of town, and there were never any kids around. And school was kind of like, I can't stand it. I've got to get on the bus to get downtown to get to my dancing class. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to do as good as I could. I wanted to do well in school, as good as I could with my brain. But I also wanted to get out as fast as I possibly could because I had to go to work. I wanted to go to work. So, as I said before, I was working from the time I was 13. And the dance meant something to me. I'm sorry, I missed the point there. What was the point?
Asking about the kid.
Okay, so inside, I think there's all a little kid of us, kind of a Charlie Brownie kind of a thing. Like, I don't want to go to your damn old birthday party, but at least you could have asked me. But there wasn't anybody to ask me because I didn't know any kids, and the kids at school were. And it was kind of a strange time too, because the war had started. And a lot of kids came from other parts of the country to work in the defense plants. And they were different from plain old Detroiters or Chicago people, And the kid's me, I think, without the eyelashes.
What was your persona in those specials? Who was Mitzi? Who were you tuning into? What?
Me, I guess. Who did I want to be? I didn't know who else to be. I could play parts, in my specials, be different people. Mm-hmm. But like I'm talking to you now, that's where I am in the special.
And do you think that was a big part of the appeal?
I think so. I think So funny that you're asking that because I don't know exactly how to answer it. But what I think I'm thinking when I'm thinking is that people know when you're lying. They know that you're not really all that nice or you're not really all that funny or, how are you, darling? Fire 'em. They just know it. And as I said to you before, some people who are really talented and marvelous, you can't come into their house. They won't let you in. I mean, they think you're marvelous and so on, but they don't want to see you every single week. Honesty, I think, is the best thing that you can say. Yeah. Huh? Walter Cronkite. You believed him. I knew Walter. That's Walter. He wasn't fooling around. I mean, he really was Walter Cronkite. You know what Cronkite means in German? Sick health. Doesn't it?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when you would do your specials, how did you sort of select the themes for each?
Well, most of the time when we would go on the road, we put a new show together, as I said before. And then the things that worked, we said, well, we don't have to rehearse that.
So the specials were essentially sort of a boiled-down version of your Vegas act.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. With kind of a theme through it. Like, for instance, I couldn't work with George Hamilton, but I could do that kind of dancing, which we had done. We did Cotton Flowers on the Wall and in another scene, but we included him into it. He was wonderful.
How much rehearsal would you do for your specials?
Well, mostly camera rehearsal. Oh, yeah. Well, see, we'd have to augment, so we'd have more dancers instead of just, my 4 guys. 3 weeks, maybe. But we started to work when I felt like it, when Mr. Bean said, everybody on the set at 10 or 11, and we quit at midnight. What are you going to do anyway? So whatever it was, we never got home before, I'd say, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, I didn't have to be into makeup until 9 o'clock in the morning, which is fine. I wouldn't go to bed before midnight anyway, would I? So...
was there a lot of editing involved?
Meaning?
How much that you shot actually wound up on TV? Was it
almost everything that we
basically you shot 45 minutes and that was it, or were there elements that were taken out later? Or
no, because we had rehearsed so much. So in other words, we didn't waste a lot of time.
I want to talk a little bit about producer-director Bob Henry.
Oh my! He just passed away, didn't he?
I'm sorry to hear that.
Did he just pass away? I think he did. He was he my first special?
Yes.
I loved him. He had a good wife, too. She was a good writer. She wrote my first act in Las Vegas, as a matter of fact. Yeah, and a good friend of Bob Sidney that I told you about. Yeah, he was okay. See, I always let Jack be the boss. Jack would set things up for me. He'd get all the people together. He only chose the best. Do you remember Arthur Freed, the famous Metro producer? And did you see Singing in the Rain? Mm-hmm. His line was, well, I don't know, I'm going to have to see it on the screen. In other words, I trust you, do it, right? Jack was kind of like that. Jack used to say things like, I don't know, if Mitzi's happy, then I'm happy. And... or he'd say, ask Mitzi if she wants to do this. She doesn't want to do it. She doesn't have to. It's come up with something else. But generally, because everybody wanted to work for him because he was such a good producer and so generous. I don't mean generous. Yes, I do. Paid very, very well and gave you, that's why he hired you. That's what you do, right? Like Hitchcock with actors. Act. I think that our shows are unique because they were like MGM musicals, like an Arthur Freed musical. Only my husband did it.
So Jack being new to bring in a Bob Henry or a Peter Gennaro, could you talk a little bit about Mr. Gennaro?
Well, I told you I had this funny little list.
Yeah, what were his strengths as a choreographer?
Well, first of all, he wanted to be a true choreographer. He wanted to work a lot in television. And he worked a lot with, married to Lee Remick. I'm not having a good day with names. Very famous guy.
Bill Colleran?
Bill Colleran. He was, Bill Colleran was generally his producer. and director. And Peter wanted to be able to move the camera around, so every time they let her do it, he'd, cut over the wires and so on. So I just can't. And I said, best thing you can do is think of good ideas and steps, and so funny because I have a lot of very la-di-da friends at the time, a lot of very la-di-da. And if I wanted to bring another choreographer, they wouldn't know who it was. But he was so famous that, yes, I could bring Peter Gennaro. And he was a sweetheart. As I said, I'm so lucky. I didn't have any dogs. Not that I'm afraid of dogs. I love dogs.
What sort of special things did you and Peter Gennaro have to do to accommodate the television cameras when he was choreographing your dances?
Well,
did you have to limit movements and things like that? Or?
Well, the stage is only so big, yes. And he had done an awful lot of it. So, no, there wasn't anything special. He got along with all the actors, which was important. And you should have seen Ed McMahon trying to con him into teaching him how to something. He said, listen, kid, I'm busy. I can't take any time with this now.
So Ed wanted to learn how to dance?
Everyone wanted to learn how to dance like Peter Gennaro. Oh, by the way, Peter Gennaro had the longest legs in the world, except he had like normal legs, but he used to wear his pants up here. So, yeah, so that his legs would look even longer. I mean, it's so funny, isn't it? Amazing.
Well, when you would shoot your dance numbers for your specials, would you have to shoot them more than once from different angles, or did the cameras catch it?
All cameras were ready to go. Professional. That's why we could do so much. Not like a movie, long shot, medium shot, close-ups. No, this was... And we were rehearsed, so we knew, bing, there's a wink, there's a shoulder, over there's a long, so we knew it. That's why rehearsing is so important. Saves you time and money.
Right, so you went in, everyone went in knowing exactly
what to do, yeah.
And it was easy, relatively.
Well, sure, hours are hard, but
right.
Hey.
I want to talk a little bit about Bob Mackie. What did he bring to the specials? What did he bring to Mitzi Gaynor?
Everybody says that I discovered him. He discovered me. He does the best funny clothes of anybody in the world. He is a producer, director. He's so show-wise. He, I would have him come in and I would do the whole show for him, what we'd choreographed so far. He would bring a pad, and then next day he'd come in. It would be all finished, this is what you're going to wear. Now, Carol Burnett would say, honey, I'm going to do, the secretary, Miss, what's her name?
Mrs. Wiggins.
Mrs. Wiggins. Do something. And he created the dress for her. And so that's what he could do. He could fill out your part, if you know what I mean. In other words,
he created the character.
He did.
In a way.
And made the skirt so tight that you couldn't walk, which gave her that funny little walk. Mm-hmm. And oh God, they're amazing together. Those two, really amazing. I'm kind of happy that I was lucky enough to be part of all of that.
What is it that you like about his gowns?
Because they work. And also, the work is so fine. It's so amazing that you can keep a dress for 5 years and do 8 shows a week, and nothing. Amazing.
Do you have any favorites?
I think the new dress in Let Go is my favorite. I was really skinny and kind of gorgeous then. Oh God, she looked really good in that. Yeah, he thinks so too. I wouldn't say it, except he says it all the time.
And how important do you think he was to the success of your specials?
Amazing. And he created Cher, he created me. I think Cher is his muse, although he will deny that he has any kind of a muse, but I think... And he takes our souls. He knows what to do with us. He understands us. He knows he'll say, okay, I got a new kind of get-ups for her, or outfits or something, which is kind of a wonderful idea. He doesn't say, oh, darling, I'm doing the most marvelous thing. Okay. And I taught him something that he later taught everybody else. Ginger Rogers said, when you go in for a fitting, don't stand there like a clod, because if you're just going to stand there, you're not going to act, and you got to move around and stretch and bend over, and everything goes pop. You got to mend it so you know what it is. So now he does that, or did that with everybody. They're dancing clothes and straight woman clothes and talking clothes and ballad clothes. That all comes from burlesque. So, a talking woman, clothes, big boobies, little tiny waist, and cute ass, and a split, right? Dancing, we know what that is, a bead and a bead and another bead, so depends on how he's feeling that day.
What is it that... were you ever approached about doing a weekly series, more than one a year? Or
I've been approached so many times years ago.
Why didn't you want to do it?
I want to do, Gene Kelly said, only do event television. That's what I've always done.
What is it that you prefer about event television rather than sort of
Well, it's special, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something that I like to do. Every single week, I think, would be awfully hard, wouldn't it? And to keep people liking you. Let's face it, like, for instance, I don't know if you're watching Suits or not. I hope it's going to be on when this comes out or whatever it is. Because the heavy in there, his name is Lewis, and I don't know the actor's name. But I am so in love with him. He is so bad. He's such a good actor being bad that I'm crazy about him. He can come into my house anytime he wants. So it doesn't mean that you have to like him because he's a good character. You can like him because you don't like him,
Hopefully he'll see this and get in contact with you.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? He's a sweetheart.
Well, I'm going to talk about some specific specials. Mitzi's second special that included parodies of Gone with the Wind and Hello, Dolly. Do you have any special memories about that one?
Hello, Charlotte. That's what it was called. Hello, Charlotte. We did it on the stage. It was great fun. Of course, I got to work with my darling, who is, oh my God, yes, Ross Hunter. Ross Martin. Are all my flubs going to be in on this? If they are, I'll kill myself.
We will talk to you afterwards, and any cuts you want to make, you can.
No, it's not really a cut. It's just I feel silly when I can't think of his name. He used to say, my mother used to call me Rose Martin. He was a famous fiddler. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
He was a fiddle player. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Fun, crazy, nuts. And we did Hello, Charlotte, and the boys were great fun. That's where this, oh, aloha, for heaven's sakes. Riot. And he has to deliver 76 trombones to a bunch of nuns that live on it. So we got every single, and that's again Hovis and Elder who thought of that.
Did sketch comedy sort of come naturally to you?
Yeah. Yeah. If you can work with really good people, it's all timing. Well, of course, Ross could do anything. He did a marvelous picture. Well, I'm not going to go into all that. Where he was a bad guy, heavy. Fabulous.
We'll check it out. Mm-hmm. On Mitzi's second special, you opened that show with the classic Mackie see-through gown.
Let go.
Were you worried at all about censorship?
No. And, yeah, it should have been. But I was totally close.
But the Catholic Church didn't say anything about that?
No, because I wasn't schwitzing. And also, I was up to here and down to there, see? So, although you could see through it. But then again, I had things here and it's all it's smoke and mirrors.
What was the concept of Mitzi the first time? What was the idea?
All the good things that have happened. The first time you had a puppy and your first date and so on. And Bob Sidney did the choreography on that. And my first really important guest was, of course, the scoreboard down at the Coliseum. And that was a good number. And of course, then I got to work with Dan Daly and Ken Berry, who is like the best co-partner I've ever had. My God, he's so good, isn't he? Ken Berry.
Yes.
Oh, I became first aware of him. F Troop. Mm-hmm. And then from then on, I've just been So when I found out he was such a fine dancer, I said, Daddy, can you get him for me? He said, of course I will. So he's amazing.
We interviewed him recently, and
tell me he's marvelous.
He's awesome, and he lamented the fact that he was sort of born too late, and he wished he'd been born earlier so he could have been a real song and dance man, because that's more what he was born to do.
Yes, and he's born to do it. I've never seen such timing and stuff, and so much, and sweet. No hysterics. I don't like hysterics, I guess you can tell. Mm-hmm. Do it.
No
Shut
drama.
Up. No drama. I will be as dramatic as I want to be, but you can't.
So was Bob Sidney very different from Peter Gennaro? Or
Oh, yes.
Was it, do you have to adjust when you get a new choreographer or a different choreographer?
Yes. Uh-huh. Bob Sidney was all about him, and he had a right to. Yes, and Peter was, listen, kid, just do what I tell you. So everybody's different.
Talk about Mitzi, a tribute to an American housewife. What was the concept behind that, other than the obvious?
Yeah. For years, we had a good friend named Tony Sharmley. He was a friend of ours. And he was a very famous choreographer. And he had created, of course, the Hit Parade. And he's such a fine man that when he was going to leave the Hit Parade and come out here, he was going to do the Dinah Shore show. And he wanted to get a replacement for himself. And I suggested Ernie Flatt. And are you listening to me? Tony said, I'd like to meet him. They met, they chatted. He had seen some of his work. He said, he's got the job. Tony Sharmley gave Ernie Flatt the job. Of course, the people, the powers that be, had to say okay, but that's Tony Sharmley. Tony I'd known forever. Jack had a meeting with him for an hour he had his office up on Sunset. At 6:30, I said, honey, you coming home? He said, darling, I've just been here. I said, you've been with Tony for 4 hours. He said, my God, that's how much. He said, we've got to hire this. My God, we haven't been with this guy. We have to be. And Tony, just think of what Tony had done up to that point. You know, he created Dinah Shore, as you know, the Hit Parade. He's worked with, you know, and he then, of course, when he did the Julie London specials, you know, those shows, Danny Kaye, and now he's going to work for me. Well, we hit it off. He can do everything. Choreograph, knows about. He's a good director, very, very good director. I've seen some of the plays he's done. We love each other. We laugh. There's nobody quite like Tony, and he's so unique that he doesn't even know, and that's something, that he's a Gemini, and he doesn't even know how good he is, and he will tell you that he's very good, you know. Anybody that knows Tony is going to giggle with this now. He'll say, oh my God, I'm so marvelous. And he is.
So one of the highlights of the show of Mitzi Tribute to an American Housewife is when you performed I Can Cook Too.
Yeah.
In probably the skimpiest outfit I've ever seen on television.
Really? Was it? No.
Oh, my goodness.
No, it was fully thinged, but just a little late. But what's the matter with you?
I found it to be... Anyway, so no problems with the censors on that one?
Why are you blushing, for heaven's sakes? Little boy, for heaven's sake. Okay, that happened with... I forgot to mention two people very, very...
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, two people very important to me. The most important part of I Can Cook Too came from a show called... whatever, it's not important. And I can cook too on top. And so Tony said, well, we're going to have to make her a little bit more fetching than that. And so I talked to Bob, and Bob said, oh, I'll do a good get up for you, honey. It was nude, leotard, with a little apron on top. And I'm stretched out on top of the sink. No, on the stove part. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm saying, and I can cook too. And they pull back. And I've got a pot, and I thought, my oven's the hottest you'll find. Bang. And it worked, and it worked, and it worked, and it worked. And we were supposed to do just like about a chorus and a half, but we did like 3 choruses, jumping up and down. See, Tony could do anything. And he has such a good sense of humor. And he knows my body. And he always says, I would do it much better than you, but at least, and it's true because he's little nuances. He's amazing. You said it was a nude thing. Shame on you.
I don't know. Yeah.
Whatever.
Was there any feminist backlash? So it was sort of done at a time when the feminist movement was sort of at its peak. Was there any sort of backlash to what you were doing at that time?
It's a funny piece. I'm making fun.
Yeah.
It's a funny piece.
And
I'm really talking about how great I am, which women...
Of course.
Yes, so it's not about how my husband...
It was different from when Nancy Walker sang it.
Yeah,
in,
that's right.
1944.
Oh, that's it. Okay, thanks.
And On the Town.
On the Town. Thank you, darling. Why didn't you jump in before and save me?
Because I didn't want to. I just thought of it.
Okay.
Also on that show, you sang "You're the Sunshine of My Life" on TV for the first time. Did you know at the time that would sort of become your future theme?
I had such a good time doing it that I thought, and it kind of says what I want to say. You are. If I don't have you, I don't have any sunshine. I mean it. I think it's pretty obvious, you know?
What kind of audiences were tuning in? What were the sort of demographics at the time?
I think probably between, of course I was a lot younger then too, baby doll, don't forget. Probably my age. Probably 30s up to, younger too because, oh, what are you watching? Oh, yeah, that's okay. Oh, that's cute. Because we always had a good sense of humor. Mm-hmm. Kids like to laugh. They really do. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes parents get so flummoxed by them, and the kids are just putting you on. They're so smart. Kids are smart. Notice.
Let's talk a little bit about Mitzi and 100 Guys.
Oh, yeah. Tony came into a meeting. Everybody was there. Dicta Benedictus and Bill Dwyer, my music people, who came up with I Can Cook, by the way. They were with me from the first time, the show from the first time. They're really a great, huge part of my life. Brilliant. He sat down and he said, well, I think Mitzi should do a show with 100 guys. Thank you, and left the office. And that was it. And so, blah, 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 blah. And Jack said, Tony running down the hall as he goes to get into the elevator, he says, Tony, he said, how do we do this? He said, you call him up? Everybody said yes. Everybody said yes. And Tony was like a train wreck. I mean, all those famous guys. Somebody forgot his pants, somebody forgot his tuxedo shirt, somebody forgot his cufflinks, somebody forgot his jacket. And I was, what do we do? And Jack said, you go to wardrobe. Don't worry about it. You know, I think we were through. We started at 9. They didn't call me until, you know, so. Oh, and that's the famous raspberry sequin dress with nothing on underneath it. And I had a backboard, you know, to save the, you don't want to wrinkle your dress before the recital, right? And so you couldn't see anything, but you thought you could. I had more I have photographs. Practically every man on the set was standing there trying to look down my thing, and it was really funny. So I said, yes. Oh, God, actors are a ball. You know, they're so much fun. We're so amazingly insecure. It's, please like me, even if you don't like me, please like me, that kind of feeling. Well, and, oh, God, somebody came up to Jack and he said, I forgot my shirt. And Jack said, so get another one. He said, hey, thank you so much for being here. Are you kidding? Go get another shirt. So then he comes with ruffles and things. And most of the guys are still here. Kind of nice, huh?
And so it was easy to get these guys. They said yes and showed up. And, and
also they had seen our work. Mm-hmm. So they knew it was
quality.
Yeah, they knew that nobody's going to get short shrift. They knew that.
And so there wasn't anyone that you sort of wanted that you couldn't get, everyone?
Telly Savalas said yes, but then he couldn't because he had to work in New York.
Okay.
Finish up his show. And Rowan and Martin, I think. I know Donald was doing a film, and Rowan and Martin, I think, were on vacation. Mm-hmm. And when you work weekly in television, anytime you get vacation, nobody has a right to say anything to you. You know,
right.
Go, do.
But you did get Bob Hope.
Got Bob Hope special. We danced together. He was marvelous. He came in and said, okay, kid, what do you want me to do? Tony showed him, and we did it, in and out. And he said, do I have to go home now? Do I have to go home now? Tony said, well, you can stay. He said, well, is there anything else I can do? And he said, well, you can kiss Mitzi again. So he did. And he said, goodbye. He got a standing ovation, everybody in the whole place. And just, can't say enough nice things. Generous.
Yeah, it sounds like him and George Jessel are sort of the important, and of course Jack, the important men in your career.
I guess. George Jessel especially.
Yeah.
Messala, what do you want? Yeah. Hello, kid.
Talk a little bit about Mitzi roaring in the 20s.
Oh, The 20s. My mama used to tell me all about the 20s, how marvelous. I loved it. God, that was good. That was a good show. That was a really good show. I think the effects in that show are better almost than some of the things. And we did that on camera. Tony did that. Tony Sharmley did all those things. He'd call people and he'd say, what can we do that we couldn't do before? So they said, so-and-so. And I mean, that's, when you're generously talented, when you have talent and you can go to somebody that is a genius too, and you talk it over, I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? No, I'll think of it all. No, you don't know certain things. You haven't spent all your life trying to perfect this light or something. Wonderful.
How is it doing comedy sketches and that with Carl Reiner?
Oh, Carl. Well, Carl's one of my best friends in the world. How could you not do a good job with Carl? I mean, he's so together. Of course, the tango, Carl and I with the tango. You know what time of the night we did that? Something happened and we didn't start until really late in the day. I think we started after lunch. I think about 1 o'clock in the morning. And he said, how are your footsies? I said, they're killing me. He said, mine too. Let's do this in one take. And we did. I mean, we were out of there by, I think, 2:30 or 3. It was amazing. I'm saying amazing an awful lot, but my life has been really amazing. Or it's hopefully still is, but I'm having such a good time. Want to stay for dinner?
Yes. Mitzi zings into spring.
Oh, that. Well, Roy Clark, I'm so madly in love with him. He is. What a really good, sweet guy he is. I mean, he's warm and so talented. Do you know he plays the fiddle? Mm-hmm. You knew that. Phooey. I thought I was springing something on you that you didn't know. He's...
I used to watch Hee Haw.
Did you? I never saw him before.
Yeah.
I saw him doing something. I don't know what. But I think that the Animal Bar is a good piece. When he plays the penguin or whatever it is, he's marvelous. All these things I hope people will be able to look at, because when I'm talking about this, a lot of love and a lot of talent went into all of this. I forgot. May I go back a minute?
You absolutely may.
To the second special?
Yes.
When Rose Martin says, frankly, Miss Scarlett, I don't give a damn. Miss Charlotte, I don't give a damn. Censor! Panic! You can't say this. That was 1969. Now you know what they say on television. I was in the bathtub once. I do that every so often. And I had the television on. I was on cable, and somebody said, I was looking, what is this? Scared me half to death. It's changed a lot, hasn't it?
Do you remember what you replaced the frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn line? What did you replace that line with? Do you remember?
No, Jack said we're going to do it.
Oh, you just did it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I even think it was a big deal when they first showed Gone with the Wind in 1976. There was a debate over whether to censor the line, but...
Well, then, of course, this whole thing, I don't give a damn. Now, what does it mean? You know what a dam is? A tinker's dam is a little piece of metal that when the pot person comes to pound the pots, to iron out your pots so that you can cook with them, the dents or something, you put a dam in there, you're supposed to straighten it all out. I know this because I studied it.
So it's not offensive at all?
No, of course not. But it doesn't really mean that. It means I don't give a damn is what it means. And dam means that because there's no such thing as a dam, except when you're damned. Oh, shush.
But that was probably the first dam on television then.
Yes, I guess.
1969. Do you want to talk about your final special, Mitzi, what's hot and what's not?
Okay. Now you're talking about censors.
Okay.
I'm doing Up the Lazy Rivers in the Nile, right? And this is Cleopatra. And Bob does an incredible leotard for me. I mean, a really incredible leotard. And no, it's all smoke and mirrors, dressed. There's nothing you can see that you shouldn't be able to see. I have more clothes on, actually, than a bikini, than a string bikini. Well, then maybe a bead. No, it's really good. The censor. Oh, and I think our sponsor was, I'm not going to tell you because it's not fair to them, but you can't. So I had to put an apron on. So then that whole thing is done from about here up. So you miss the whole damn thing. But in my show, you can see it. And it's so inoffensive. It really is. It really is. That's what when I have a leopard or something down there on the floor. You
used some disco music in that special.
Yes.
Was it important to you to sort of keep up to date?
Always, always, always. Now, I sing Blue Heaven, you and I, which is from the Desert song. So that was from 1924 or 5. So, I mean, we always do a mix of those things. Like there are no really ballads for people like me to sing anymore. So that's why I have to keep going back to the older ones.
How did your specials sort of change and evolve over the years?
I think we just kept up with the time. And my haircut, too. Don't forget my haircut. My hairdresser, he tries his hair like mine. Then if it looked good on him, then he cut it like his. I mean, we're family. I think that's very important, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
This sort of ties into what was the atmosphere that you tried to create on the set,
Family.
you and Jack? Yeah.
Mr. Bean would always, whatever you want, you could have. That's it. And when we had Benny Goodman on What's Hot, What's Not, he came on the set and he bellowed because he didn't like the set. Because it was very artistic. He was to stand in the center. And then they had over there the trumpet. No. It's supposed to be together. So he let out a terrible yell and said, "Where's the producer?" Jack said, "That must be me." What is that? He said, "What's up, Benny?" He said, "I can't, Jack." He said, "It'll be done." So clustering around, that was it.
No drama.
No, and we don't hire drama. And because it gets out, for instance, for instance, like Jack Cole, the famous choreographer, always said, don't be a drama queen when you're working for a choreographer because it gets out and they won't hire you anymore. They just won't. Why? What's the matter? It costs too much trouble. Maybe you'll hire a dancer who won't be quite as good, but they won't give you any trouble and you can teach the one who isn't quite as good. So Jack was always very good about that. He'll say, we do strange and wondrous hours, but you'll always get plenty of sleep, and I'll give you lots of money. And then, of course, when the minute they got there, the dressing room was totally done with flowers and fruit and, cheese and dancing girls and shiitakes and all kinds of wondrous vestibules.
Were you pretty hands-on with the production details, or did you leave that to others?
Oh, no, I don't. Except if I go to reach for something and it doesn't work, I say, either I'm breaking it or I'm doing something wrong, help me, please. That's where you hire them. They know what they're doing.
And does the same go for the writers on your specials?
Yes.
Did you work with them at all? Or?
Oh, yeah, sure. But the writers that I've worked with have taught me so much that I write my own stuff now. I don't know if it's any good or not, but it comes out of my face and my life. And the writers knew me so well that they knew exactly what I would say or do, which is really hard since I only do or did one special a year for 10 years or whatever it was.
So it goes back to what you said, hire the best and let them work.
Yes.
What dance moves do you think worked particularly well for television?
Well, spins, of course, because people can't spin, and kicks and backbends. I can spin, kick, and backbend. That was my great fort right there. Hello there.
Were there any that sort of didn't really work on television as well as live?
I don't think so. I've had such good choreographers that
They made it work.
And if it didn't work for me, first of all, I would go and they would show me something, and I would say, okay, now I've done this before and I don't do it well. Would you try it? Of course I'll try it, and I'll do it full out. I don't, jazz around with it. I will do it full out. Would you try it again? Yes, even harder. Honey, you can't do that. Out. Another step. Simple. Then we don't spend hours on the set. We don't have to relight it.
Do you have any favorite sketches from the specials that you haven't mentioned yet?
Well, we talked about everything, didn't we? Just about.
I think we covered it. Were there any sort of big failures that didn't quite work other than your first ballad?
Oh, listen, everybody loved it but me. My husband kind of went, yes, Yummy, you're not good. I said, no, dear, I'll never do that again as long as I live. No, because of rehearsal, because we tried to,
Right.
We were kind of like the Marx Brothers. They used to go on the road and then do the movie. We know where the laughs are. We know, and you can save so much time.
Right, so anything that didn't work was gone by the time it got on television.
Because opening night, wherever it is, if it works, one thing we did once, and on opening night, and I think we were in Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. It was out before I even finished it. We just knew it wasn't going to work. You know? I mean, just, oh, honey, this is not working. And the more you try that, and the audience goes, oh, isn't that nice? And the minute that happens, you're in a lot of trouble.
So your year would basically be traveling from city to city, doing your act, and then coming to Los Angeles and putting it on TV.
That's right.
It's fascinating. Was that how was it living like that?
Lovely. Lovely. Just lovely. And then, of course, we'd go to Hawaii after the special. And we'd be so pooped that we'd go and lie on the ends of those, you know, those wonderful boys, what do they call the Copa boys, would just come and kind of turn us over. We didn't have the strength. And then I'd turn the radio on and then listen to music and say, oh, God, that's good for the show. That's how I got let go. And Poor Papa, you know, the funny little sailor thing that we do, just listening to the radio.
So basically, as soon as you were done in Hawaii, you would start thinking of...
What's next?
Yeah, what's next?
What's next?
Are there any performances from the specials that you find that fans really remember more vividly than others? Are there any ones that people come up to you about still and things like that?
I Can Cook Too.
Of course.
Guys.
Right.
And Let Go in this nude dress. And I think Rhapsody in Blue, that wonderful thing, because there was so much... For instance, like when I kick and hold my leg, that's always, oh my God, how you do that. And little girls come up to me and say, I want to be just like you. Then I say, okay, get some eyelashes.
One thing I forgot to mention is in 1971, it was interesting. They premiered South Pacific on ABC, and you hosted it, correct?
SS, I don't remember that. Now, remember I
okay.
told you about how I'm not remembering certain things?
Yeah, apparently it was a big deal, and you sort of taped wraparounds for it, introducing different segments and things like that.
Is that in 1971 I did
1971, yeah. That's what my research says.
Excuse me.
Remember the photo shoots you did where you were in the sailor suit and behind you was a picture of you in the sailor suit?
Yeah. Was that it?
Yeah.
Oh, and I did. Who else was on?
Just you.
Just you?
The whole evening? Just me?
Well, you did an intro for the film.
What'd I wear? I'm sorry about this. It's always what did I wear?
Why did the specials end? Why'd you stop doing them?
Oh, my mother died. And it did me in. And I took maybe a year off. We were very close. And then I realized my mother's whole life was me doing what I did. Mm-hmm. And I better get back to work. And that's when I started back to work again. And then, of course, they weren't kind of doing those things anymore.
Right.
It cost so much money, amazing amount of money.
Do you think that kind of genre will ever come back?
I don't know.
It might be cost prohibitive at this point.
Yeah, because, yeah. But that was then, wasn't it?
Talk about appearing with Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show.
That was fun.
Do you have kind of a special rapport with him?
I liked him a lot, and he kind of liked me. And I would do numbers which other people didn't do. You know, they just come out and talk about their things and bring maybe a film clip. But I would do, like I did Poor Papa on it with my two guys, and I did the sailor, the sailor thing, in a sailor's, and then changed. And it changed into a little tiny Goldie thing with the little cap and da-da-dum-bum-bum in 4-inch heels, hello, thank you. And when I exited, Johnny said to Ed, she's really built. And Ed said, and they went to a commercial. Yeah, I had a good time.
Ed got cut off.
No, went to a commercial. Same thing.
So you took a long time off, and then you appeared in the stage version of Anything Goes.
Yes.
How was that? How was that doing the stage after you had been on TV
Oh
for
God,
so
I've
long?
been well. Yes, and it was very hard for me because I had come from the theater and I had been in the theater doing a part in a play for a long time. But it was interesting, very, very interesting. It's hard work. It really is very, very hard work. 8 shows, is fine. I could do it by myself with my guys because we understand each other and we know what we're doing. But with the people having to wrestle them around and everything, and it was kind of, I didn't have anything to do with that. But that's really hard work. I loved it, but I think it would take an awful lot to get me to do it again. I mean, I could do my own thing because I like to do it, but I like to be my own.
So
boss.
after all those years of doing your own thing, it was
Very
sort of difficult
yes,
to get back
very
into
difficult for
a
me.
collaborative.
Yes, yeah,
Where you have something.
because it's just different. When you come from it, yes, it's fine. But when you have been away from it for such a long time, it's hard to get back into it again. By the end of it, I was having a ball, but at the beginning it was... and I chose everybody that was in the cast. So anything that didn't work was my fault. I mean, I thought. But everybody was good. I mean, very good actors. Really, really good. Very good. Good music, gorgeous music.
In the 90s, you became a columnist for The Hollywood Reporter. How did that come about?
George Christie, my very darling, dear friend, journalist and famous man, and he said, Mitzi, darling, you've got to write something for me. And I said, okay. So he said, I want you to see a picture, Judy Garland's first picture. And it was with Betty Grable, Johnny Downs, Lou Irwin, where Lou Irwin, they're looking for, and Patsy Kelly, they're looking for a new quarterback or to throw football, and they go out on the farm for some reason, and there's Lou Irwin throwing watermelons to his sister, Judy Garland. Well, I mean, auspicious or not, it was great. And that kid, when she started to sing, tore your heart out. It was just marvelous. And guess what the song was? Something like, I Gotta Sing. That was it. And so I wrote it, and it got a nice review. And from George Christie, naturally. It was good. People liked it.
And,
I like to write.
What other things did you write about during your stint?
Oh, well, let's see. I wrote about Betty Grable. I wrote about Ginger Rogers, not Fred, but Ginger. I wrote about George Christie. I wrote about Noel Coward. I wrote about, just people like that on a special page. People that I knew that I had grown up with.
I want to talk about your recent PBS special, Razzle Dazzle. How did that come about?
I have an Emmy for that.
I understand you do.
Our shows were nominated for 17. We won 6. I was never nominated, ever. It's like I wasn't there. But this time, since we put this together, and my bosses, my managers, my hearts, my soul, my visceras, my everything, Renee Reyes and my darling Shane Rosamunda put this thing together and sold it for me and sold it for us. And we all have Emmys now because of it. It was a wonderful experience. They're so good. They're brilliant. Look at me. When my husband died, I didn't want to be Mitzi Gaynor again. I don't think I could. I was just going to, not. And I have 2 warehouses or storage bins of maybe 1,000 costumes out. You don't want to know where it is, but out there. And somebody said, what do you do with those clothes? I said, well, maybe we should auction some of them off and give the money to my charity, my Professional Dancers Society charity. I'm president of that. So a friend called the museum, and it's now called the Paley Center, and spoke with Renee Reyes. And he said, I'd love to see some of the costumes. And then I went to see, we said hello, and it was like, Jack. I felt. And he said he'd like to do it. And then he said, be nice if we could get, if you'd like it, could we get Tony Sharmley and Bob Mackie and we'll do an evening? And I said, I can do that. 2007, ever since. So they have saved my life, really. They have. And my husband, if he was alive now, would be in love with them too. He would. He'd call them the guys. And I know it takes two of them to become one Jack, but life has changed a lot since Jack was Jack and the two guys are here. They're just, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. You know that.
And you got your long overdue Emmy.
It's lovely. Isn't it grand?
It is. On that note, we're going to take a small break and change the tape.